I'm Brad Roberts. I work with Paul. I come from the construction space. I've spent about 20 years as an executive at Hilti and Stanley Black and Decker, and Paul and I have started working together on active estimating. And I just wanted to spend, a little bit of time working with Paul here to explain how active estimating came about and a little bit, about Paul's journey. Paul, would you introduce yourself here for a minute?
Sure. My name is Paul Martin, and I've been estimating for about 30 years, quite a long journey. And over that 30 years, for the last almost 20 years, taught at the University of Davis in estimating analysis, about 18 years CPE, which is continuing in professional education. In the last 5 years on campus here in the engineering department, civil and environmental and engineering department for estimating analysis and also estimating reality lab, um, augmented reality lab. So for most of my journey has been practicing. I teach about 20% of my time, and I'm a practitioner the rest. And unlike academia, where academia pushes theory into the industry, I'm the opposite direction. I solve problems in the industry and then figure out a way to teach it in university through adult and also student teaching. So I guess for me, Brad, my career has been built on solving problems and solving problems on actually quite large projects here for the last 15 years of my career.
No,
So,
that sounds,
and thank you for this time, by the way. It's always great to spend time with you.
that's outstanding. It sounds like you've had a fun journey.
It's been pretty fun. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So on this journey, I guess what was the aha moment during your career where you said, I've seen enough, I've done enough. I kind of connect the dots, and you get this idea about how to create a solution that you're now calling active estimating and getting out into space. What was that aha moment for you?
Yeah, I think the aha moment actually wasn't one specific time. It was a culmination of my entire career. And as I started estimating more, and I'm a very active estimating is a style. It's a way to approach things. I've always been really uh, active, like wanting to know all of the pieces and parts of an estimate, not just when we're a passive estimator. We just wait for information to come in as opposed to go get it and always have a complete picture. And so it wasn't one defined moment. It was many moments over years. And I would say as I got older and further into my career, I started doing much larger projects. So now most what I touch is a billion five plus for probably the last 15 years. And um, what what I had to do on all of these projects is because it's so intense and there's so much information um, that I had to always create my own tools and that's what I love to do. So I was, no problem there. But after a while, you just keep creating the same thing over and over, and we're kind of struggling with the industry struggling with the same problems for complex jobs, on and on. Um, so I tend just through the time I started working kind of with the same folks that would help me. I would say, well, gee, I want this tool to do this, and we would develop something to do it for that project. So after many different projects, I thought, I'm just tired of inventing these tools that do the same thing. Why don't we just put a tool together that can be applied across any project and solve a problem, which is as we all know, almost 98% of projects in the US are substantially over budget.
Right.
And I live that, meaning that I'm the head estimator, the lead estimator has to be the one that understands exactly where cost is from the very beginning to the very end. And I think if there were an aha moment, I would say when I started doing IFOA projects, which are integrated form delivery, where the estimator from the GC side is in very early. And then that was shored up by when I had an opportunity to be on the owner side nationally and oversee many projects from several states, hospitals, and to see an estimate from different perspective and how important it is to be aware of everything all the time. Just to understand where the cost is all the time and no excuses. In other words, when the design team or the estimating team and management team, there's it can't be so easy. Well, we don't know where the cost is. We must always understand where the cost is. So that's essentially the background of my passion of why we created Active Estimating and formed such a high caliber team to solve this problem, which I feel that we really are on a beautiful journey
No, that's
to do
great.
so.
And so I can tell you're real passionate about what you've got going. And
Absolutely,
so,
absolutely.
and when we, you're in the field and myself, when we talk to potential customers or clients, the big misconception is that we're estimating software. And we're not estimating software. There's AccuBid, QuickBid, there's other ones out there.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about what active estimating is, and did it fulfill your original vision of what you were trying to develop so far?
Yeah, to that very good question. Very good question. Here's why I'm very emphatic about this. Is that look, today the construction industry is becoming very technical. It didn't used to be that way. That's only within, say, the last 8 years, really, or maybe 15 years at the most, started its transition in 15 years ago. And so nowadays, estimating software, first of all, I believe they're all passive for the most part. And passive meaning they're essentially big databases, And the other thing is that, and we call them legacy estimating softwares, and they're also pretty integrated nowadays. It goes into accounting, production analysis, contracts, operations, on and on, historical, and they become very entwined within a company. And so companies should be experts on what things cost. And what I found is it's not necessarily understanding what things cost in a database. It's understanding in the dynamic state of design, how do you measure? In other words, what are the pieces what is the meaning of the measure? What is the criteria of every piece or part of an estimate that you're putting together, the scope, if you will? That's the difficult part, how you split that up and how you define what that is. And in estimating, look, when you put an estimate together, only the last 25% do you actually put a cost in. 75% of your time is understanding what the scope is. How do you want to split it up? So active estimating is a platform process and a program, that methodology, call it what you want, but it's a way that the entire team can work on understanding exactly what the scope is, the true definition of every line item of what that is, and intelligence into each line item that then transforms. So you can see it one way. It's not just the GC's or the subcontractor's estimate. It's the entire team's estimate. And then it will transform into the different types of estimating legacy. So what that means is that your existing estimating software is still still costing things. It just gives it intelligence. It gives it a superpower, if you will. And it will turn a passive system of estimating into an active system. And again, it's a tool now that not just the GCs can use, but also owners can use, and subcontractors in collaboration also with general contractors. So it's a really and architects and engineers. So it's a holistic way of looking at estimating.
Yeah. And you were even doing some work outside of the construction space, yeah, with some
We
larger
we
accounts.
we are. I've been leading a, a think tank or a task group that coordinates with NASA and Johns Hopkins Applied Physics, and it's about 70 some universities, including UC Davis. And we are addressing how to estimate for very complex extreme projects. And this just happens to be estimating construction projects for moon construction. And interestingly enough, a lot of our and it's a very forward way of thinking, because there, if you think about this, astronaut is $2 million a day. And if you're short on screws, you can't say let's call Home Depot and get that this afternoon. It's I mean, if you think of the complexity, we had astronauts in space for 9 months, when they had a malfunction with the return vehicle. So they, took 9 months to figure that out. And it could have taken longer, but there was some pretty amazing ingenuity that went into getting them back here on Earth. But the point is that it's very complex, and if we're wrong on estimating time or cost, then lives can actually get lost. So it's addressing how do we get to we call it minimum variance of absolute variance. So in other words, the minimum variance that you can get, essentially, to be exact. And so there's a lot of parallels, actually, because we're searching to get as exact as we possibly can. Part of that is through information verification, and also understanding exactly scope from the very beginning. Now the challenges, that sounds easy maybe, but our platform and program helps understand what is the detail at the very beginning, before maybe the detail's even there, we realize it. But if you have, if you think about it, every project here, and we're back on Earth now, right? Every project here that we build, we've built these projects before, and so we can predict systems, things of that nature, even at the very beginning. And so we like to think of this as a holistic way of estimating, an active way of estimating. So we think systemically. So we think from the very beginning, from the owner's perspective, all the way to life cycle, all the way through the project. Now, just because we enter at different times, maybe the architect in a timeline of a project, maybe the architect enters, after the owner puts the capital project together, and then maybe the engineers come in, and the GC comes in later, and the subcontractor comes in, and what have you. But the concept is it doesn't matter when you enter. You move into a holistic way of awareness and understanding exactly where cost is. And it supplements any estimating software that you currently use. It doesn't disrupt, it enhances. Again, gives you a superpower.
Oh, that's outstanding. And so you've taken the construction industry and you've taken a very technical firm as in NASA, and you found a way to take the theory that goes between both worlds,
Yeah.
drives a solution that helps a hospital being built all the way through to construction in space. And the software plays in both spaces.
It does.
Provides a very accurate way to create estimates with very little information. I should say the data to complete an estimate with very critical information, or very limited critical information on the front end. Is that a fair assessment of what it does?
Yeah, that is. And I think why it crosses over to something like aerospace, let's say, so well is because we use, I've estimated about $14 billion in hospitals just to date, just hospitals. And 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 these are complex, hospitals are complex projects. And that complexity has a lot of lessons learned in it. And again, I think because I'm also a teacher, and I'm always very the soul in me, every fiber in me, when I wake up, it's like I want to solve problems. I want to be good at what I'm doing, estimating, but I also want to solve problems. And it's just like I tell my students, after the class, you're not going to be great at staying status quo and keep being good at just doing the same problems the way we do in the estimating industry. You're going to be problem solvers. You're going to be better than the norm of the industry. And the way that I achieve that is we take problems, or I take problems that we have, like the complexity of estimating hospitals. What are the challenges? I mean, these pre-con teams can be a couple hundred, 200 to 300 people involved when you add everything up. And that's a lot of information. So it's understanding how to be aware of the information. How do you manage the information? How do you get it even prepared to get it into an estimate? And then just understanding all the nooks and crannies. So there's a lot of, even though you have, to your question, even though you have some so complex as the moon or here on Earth, there's a lot of synergy as far as how information moves. How are we aware? How do we break things out? What's the methodology to keep us aware of cost? And I like to refer to it as an active estimating, but also the cost of the design, not cost of design, the cost of the design,
Yeah.
all the way through in real time.
One of the questions I like to ask when I close things out is what impact or legacy, driving active estimating, do you want to leave in the construction space? I mean, what's the passion behind this, and why are you creating this? Why are you taking the time, and what legacy do you want to leave behind?
I think, again, maybe it's the teacher coming out in me. But I think that there's a lot of misunderstanding as a whole, about estimating. What is estimating? And also, I think that estimators are a very it's almost a scientific, not almost, it's a scientific profession. And folks, all through the years, through my entire career, they say, well, science is an art and science. And I believe very, very much, no, science, estimating is art and science, but there's a science in the art. There's a way we approach it. And look, to be 98% inaccurate in estimates in the industry is unacceptable, and we have not moved the needle. So the legacy that me and all colleagues that we work together with, let's solve the problem. Let's not make that the norm anymore. We can do this, and it's through an articulate methodology, which creates an active way that we interact with each other. And let's put the accuracy back into estimating.
Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate the
Yeah,
time, Paul,
vice
and
versa.
I'm sure we'll circle back, and we'll have some more fun in the future talking about some other
Yeah,
things.
I'd be looking forward to speaking with you again. Thanks. Always good to see you, Brad.
Have a good afternoon.
Thanks.
Take care.